Okay, greetings everybody, and welcome into another episode of the NWS Columbia podcast. I'm your co-host Pierce Larkin,
I'm your co-host Matt Gropp.
and we are here to bring you a little bit of a different episode. That's going to be a lot shorter, and we're just going to go through this week and give you a little forecast discussion, specifically focusing on some potential active weather towards the end of the week.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of step through a simplified version of the forecast process here.
Yep.
Pierce is going to walk us through the Weather Prediction Center's forecast frontal maps here.
You're seeing that right in front of you. So I'll just go ahead and get us started here. So you can see that we've got some weather influence in us. We've had wedge conditions the past couple of days as a warm front's been to our south. That's lifting to our north right now as a strong surface low pushes into the Great Lakes in the northeastern U.S. That's going to continue to be the case over the next 24 hours as that weak front starts to approach us and really stall to our north. It could bring an isolated shower or two this evening, Monday evening, to our northern forecast area, but nothing widespread. And then that front is really going to start lifting back north as a stationary boundary that could potentially bring some rain by midweek. But really, the most interesting part of the weather is going to be out in the western U.S. where the Sierras actually could get what?
Oh, they're going to get another 5+ feet of snow.
Yeah, it's going to be completely crazy.
Again, you can't really see it from these maps here because these are just purely surface pressure maps.
Yep.
But we're going to be warm this week.
Yeah,
again.
we're going to be very warm.
Back into the 80s again.
And because this front doesn't clear the Gulf, we're actually going to start feeling some of that, late spring humidity that none of us really like dealing with. So spring has sprung across the area. And this really gets us into Wednesday and Thursday when our next big system starts to take shape. That stationary boundary will lift to our north and will start sinking towards us as a cold front on Thursday. Should give us some isolated to scattered convection during the afternoon. But then the real stuff is going to get going across the Mississippi Delta and the Ark-La-Tex region where significant severe weather is possible out there. So Matt, why don't you talk about that for us?
Sure. So this here we're looking at the SPC. This
is
is day 4 outlook. So SPC only issues up to a 30% risk for days 4 through 8. So they've basically maxed out what they'll issue here, kind of over the Ark-La-Tex.
Yep.
As Pierce was showing with that front moving up from Texas into Oklahoma, and then kind of lifting north into the Ohio Valley as we get into Friday. You can see here. Yeah, it lifts right through Arkansas and then up into the Ohio Valley. It's going to come across as a cold front for us on Friday, but not before it produces probably at least some severe weather across the deep south. How much is TBD, but the setup looks pretty favorable for some. And then again for day 5 here, SPC has us outlooked in a 15%, which is pretty high. We don't get in day 5 15% very often. So it's a pretty decent setup for severe weather around here.
So let's walk through that a little bit. Let's start with our 500 millibar wind map here, Matt. Let me start at hour 72.
Sure.
So
again, we have our big cutoff low at 500 millibars that's kind of moving over the Four Corners region. Out west, you see that big, strong jet that's associated at the bottom of the trough there that's moving through Texas.
Max 120 knots there.
Yeah. So you're seeing like 140 mile an hour wind speeds there in that jet at 500 millibars. So this is even below like the jet stream. So it's a pretty intense, potent little system. And if you keep going forward, that's going to move across Texas, Oklahoma, and then up through the Mississippi Valley.
It's going to overspread strong wind across the Carolinas as well.
So then this time period right here is Friday afternoon.
This is 1 p.m.
Right. So we would have our low pressure system at this point kind of up over Kentucky into Indiana, Illinois area. And then that front would be moving through Friday afternoon. Very strong winds aloft that'll be associated with that. So when we talk a little bit more about the shear that's associated with this front, that's mainly the shear you're looking at right there is those really strong winds aloft.
So very strong forcing associated with that. And then a little bit lower in the atmosphere, we're expecting a very strong, what we call a low-level jet to develop around 850 millibars, which is about what, 9,000 feet-ish, 3 kilometers? Or is that 700 millibars?
No, lower than that,
Okay.
It's like
1.5.
Yeah, it's like this time of year between 1,000 and 1,500 meters. So, 4,000 feet off the ground or so.
So I'm going to see that start to develop, take a really intense low-level jet pushing across the area from the lower Mississippi Delta, deep south, all the way across Alabama, Georgia, and then up into the Carolinas on Friday and on Friday evening. Really, we're looking for anything stronger than about 40 knots, and we're getting values upwards of 60 knots across a large area. So this is, like Matt was saying, going to really play into that wind shear that we could see on Friday.
And even regardless if we get severe weather on Friday, with wind speeds that strong at 850 millibars, with us being warm, we'll be able to mix down a lot of those winds to the surface anyway. So even if it's no storms happen at all, it's going to be windy.
Yeah, expecting probably gusts greater than 30 miles per hour pretty easily on Friday. So like Matt was talking about, got the surface low across Oklahoma and Texas pushing northeastward as that 500 millibar trough really digs and produces widespread upper level forcing over that area. That surface low intensifies, drags a cold front that's right here.
And this is very, very early Friday morning.
Yes. This
like
is
5 a.m. or so.
Yeah, this will be 4 a.m. Friday, 9Z. Strong cold front pushing through Mississippi and Alabama. You can see these temperatures are still warm, so they'll likely keep some instability into the night. And then we start to really warm up. You can see we've got 15 to 20 knot sustained winds across the forecast area on Friday, which is going to really create those strong gusts.
With temperatures up, moving north of 80 there. Across most of the southeast, probably into low 80s across the CSRA, eastern Georgia.
And then Matt, why don't you talk about the dew points we're expecting on Friday?
So if you go back to the beginning of this, Pierce, you'll see.
Here's Thursday. We'll start Thursday night. You can see
that works.
That front we were talking about hanging around the area.
Yeah, and we stay well south of that, so our dew points are going to stay in the into the 60s. There's a bit of dry air that develops over Florida and then moves north. But as that front approaches, moving through Mississippi, Alabama, into Georgia, it's going to really advect up some really high dew point values over our area into the low 60s, maybe even mid to upper 60s possibly. So.
Yeah, and this is likely to create, we talked about this on an earlier episode, really good values of mixed layer CAPE across the area. Anything over 500 is pretty significant this time of year across our forecast area.
Yeah, especially the cool season and in the southeast. Really, you get north of 500, that's where we start to start to look at that specifically.
Let's zoom in a little bit to the southeast so we can see our areas a little bit.
There we go.
So let's go ahead and click in the CSRA here and look at a potential forecast sounding that the GFS is showing. The GFS is not the only forecast model that is pumping out some intense.
So if you've never seen this before here, the plot on the left, the big one there that's the thermodynamic sounding. So that's the skew
temperature.
T log P. Yeah, the red line there is the temperature. The green line's the dew point.
Yep.
The blue line is basically the path that rising air will take in that thermodynamic environment.
Yep.
So it's the parcel profile. And basically what we're looking at there is with that blue line being to the right of the red line, it essentially implies that there is instability in the atmosphere. And it works out that we have, just north of, we got about 1,300 mixed layer CAPE, about 1,300 most unstable CAPE.
Yep.
And so overall, that's pretty high CAPE for us, especially from a global model to resolve that much CAPE.
Yep. And so we've got that significant amount of instability, along with a cold front pushing through and at least some forcing aloft.
Yeah.
And so looking at some wind shear values. We've got values that are north of 300 meters squared per second squared in 0 to 3 kilometer SRH, which just means we've got a lot of turning with winds of height.
Storm relative velocity. It's just kind of sums together the speed and directional shear as the wind moves up with height. So.
Yep. And so this is a fairly significant number, indicating we're looking for values at the 3 kilometer level around 250 or higher. Right. And so getting into the 300s is pretty significant. So
so purely based on the fact there's a big front, it's a pretty potent jet aloft.
Yep.
The setup climatologically favors severe weather. We're seeing CAPE values that would support it. Overall, there's a lot of things that would favor severe weather here.
Yep.
Some of the things that would suggest we may not see severe weather would be kind of just a general lack of agreement amongst the global models and actually any sustained convection. They're not actually producing it in the model.
That is one of the unique things about this setup is that the forcing goes well off to the north up into the mid-Atlantic. That's where the strongest forcing is, but there is some concern that could lead to more discrete storms as opposed to linear storms, which we often get around here. So in that kind of environment, I wanted to show you all this tool that we use here in the office called the Extreme Forecast Index. It's basically just a way of looking at a different way of looking at all of the members of an ensemble and picking out which ones are, or how much of the ensemble is showing extreme values.
Yeah. So in this case here, that dark brown color, if you go down, that dark brown color. Yeah. So it's 80 to 90. So that means 80 to 90% of the models in that ensemble are showing extreme values
of CAPE,
essentially. Yeah. Of CAPE in this case. We go to the one with the CAPE and shear overlaid together.
Let's go ahead and look at that. The combo of CAPE and shear here
So again, it shows pretty much the same idea as it did with Cape. You see a little bit more anomalous values up in the mountains and stuff, but
it's unique at this stage for ensembles to really be picking out on, because ensembles tend to over smooth the values, individual values like Cape and stuff. So it's unique that models are already picking up on the destabilization that we could have on Friday. And so really does, I want to leave you with this, the SPC graphic here, be weather aware on Friday. There is a chance for severe thunderstorms across the CSRA and Midlands of South Carolina. There are a lot of details to figure out between now and then.
Right. This is a lot of different options here. This could be a complete nothing burger kind of type event with just some showers, or it could be kind of a severe day that produces, some isolated tornadoes and some wind. Again, regardless if we get any severe weather, we are expecting windy conditions with that front. Moving through in general, we're going to see gusts, over 30 miles an hour for sure. So
high confidence among the ensemble members of the ECMWF. Greater than 80% of models are showing extreme values for wind gusts on Friday and Friday afternoon. So whether we get severe weather or not on Friday, it does look like it's going to be a pretty significant day wind-wise.
I should say the extreme values they mean here, it's just compared to what climatologically has happened before. So it's comparing the forecast to what's come before, and this is on the kind of the upper end of what we've seen before. So.
And as always, if you want the latest forecast, you can go to our homepage, weather.gov, and then you can see kind of all the weather we got going on across the United States right now. Winter storm in the north, tornadoes, Indiana.
More blizzard warnings for the Sierras.
But you can click on Central South Carolina and the CSRA. And then you can scroll down and click on wherever you are for your latest forecast. We'll just click on close to the airport here.
You can take a look at those 78, 79, 82, 80, 79. It is
well above normal.
It is spring.
So, that's all we've got for y'all. If you have any questions, please leave them on the in the comments section. Tweet us, call us, email us, fax us even.
Fax us,
Thanks for watching this fire episode. Hope you enjoyed it. And we could be back for more later this week.